Hello everyone, JammyJ here. Today we're doing a really random video on a game called SteamWorld Dig. So I bought this game on Steam. I know it's originally a 3DS eShop title that came out back in August, I believe, so it's been out for quite some time. But the PC version ported about a month ago, I think. Obviously it's got HD'd up textures. It does look a hell of a lot nicer. But I'm really tempted to get it again on the 3DS just so I could play it on the go, which would be a really nice idea. It's the only issue I've had with the game in general is that the story is a little bit lacking. I mean, not that there isn't much of a story. There's the common goal throughout the whole game, basically, which is to get to the bottom and, you know, to explore the depths. But it was a bit of a shallow story at that, and the story itself can only, you know, there's an achievement for beating it in 2.5 hours. So on a speedrun, you could theoretically beat it in that time. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just means the game doesn't really have a lot of depth, quite literally, considering it's a game about getting to the bottom. So the basic controls revolve around swapping items in, such as picks, drills, and a fist punching item, which can be used to blow up blocks from a distance. The main weapon you're going to be using, or the weapon of choice for most people, will be the pick. Now the reason I say that is because it doesn't use up water, which I've just collected. You need water to run both the drill and the fist. And in the other corner you can see I've got a dynamite stick, or 3 to be precise. I can swap those out to a ladder, which I can then place with Y. I can also swap to a lantern, which I can place with Y as well, and a teleporter, which I can use to go basically back to the surface. It's quite useful. It works really well with the joystick on the 360 gamepad that I'm using. So, you know, being a puzzle platform, it has lots of elements that are used in other games. It has a very Spelunky type look. Sort of even the guy with the hat, he kind of reminds me of the main character from Spelunky. Has a very Terraria mining aspect, going down, picking up ores, going back to the surface. You know, you will be returning to the surface a hell of a lot for money. You sell your ore that you've made to people in the town, and then you can buy upgrades. See at the top, I've got my health, which is ridiculously low right now. And people can give you health. You can buy dynamite, like here. And I haven't really got much money at the moment, but there's things you can buy, like different picks. You can upgrade your drill, your pouch, so you can carry more items. It really does work well, especially with the control scheme on the gamepad. It really does feel like a game that was meant to be for the 3DS. I mean, obviously I'm not playing on the 3DS, so it's hard to comment, but I can just imagine this working really well with the different, you know, the degrees of the foreground. As you can see, the wall layer in the background is in the foreground, but the background behind that, which is a lava-y type of cavern texture, you can see as I'm moving around, it's a 3-dimensional. The foreground moves slower than the background does, which really adds 3-dimensional, you know, suspense, and really makes the game look pretty outstanding in general. So I'd imagine this would look even better on the 3DS with the 3D option turned on. Again, enemies will drop items such as water and health, but you can also get something like the fire symbol, which is in the top right corner, and this can be used for light. As you can see, I've got a spotlight around me currently, even when I'm not lit lamps. And that means that's because I've got a lot of fire in that corner. I've also been told that the fire is energy as well by some people, but I'm not entirely sure if that's correct, because I'm not too familiar with the game itself. I have only had the game for about 3.5 hours, maybe even 4 at that, but I haven't really had it for too long, and I'm actually up to the final boss. So if you're looking for a game to spend, you know, the whole Christmas holiday playing, this isn't that game. It's a game that utilises very interesting aspects, and I'm really looking forward to this game having a sequel, because I'd really like to see what the developers can do next to this story, because it does end on a cliffhanger. And a lot of people have said the game ends just as it was starting to get good. And I don't know if that's quite true, because the game is quite slow. While the game is, you know, slow at the start, it does still have a very sort of intriguing and engaging way that it sort of picks you up, and it sort of like treats you like a newbie. Like, some games don't do that. Some games sort of just assume that you know the basics, and it's good that this game, being a first from a series, treats you as if you haven't played one of the games before, or a game in the, a game in this style before, because while it is a bit like Spelunky and Terraria and even a Metroid mechanics, you know, there are things down here in the mines. The wall jumping aspect does work well, by the way. It's really easy to do, and you know, it was clearly intended to be a really easy mechanic to work with. But there are things called dungeons, which are like little mini puzzle rooms. They kind of remind me of a Zelda-esque type room. But as you can see, I've got a couple of abilities such as double jump, which you can see like there. And here, this is like, they're little puzzles, and at the end of it, you'll get some sort of upgrade. So, for example, you get the drill quite early on as one of the upgrades, and then you get this double jump, and you also get the punching ability, and the ability to speed while you're running, holding X, and you dash. So, you know, it really does work well. It's one of those games that is clearly well thought out. It works extremely well as one of these type of games, you know. Yes, there are some sort of puzzly elements in it that do work well. You know, it's a nice break. It really does break up the gameplay from just constantly mining. To just, you know, be able to say, alright, let's sit back and let's try and figure out this puzzle and what we've got to do now. And then the enemies again, the fighting with the enemies, I mean, you aren't really obliged to kill any enemies in this game. You could literally avoid all of them if you had to. But the game, there are some aspects in the game which really do work superbly well. And not a lot of games can pull off, you know. The art style itself really does look really good in the HD'd up version. I don't know if that's the case in the 3DS, but from what I've seen of the 3DS version, it looks just as good. Just as, you know, I mean, obviously not quite as HD'd up, but it's still, I mean, for a 3DS game, it's pretty impressive, I've got to admit that. But what do you guys think of this game? Do you think it looks impressive for a 3DS port? Do you think that this game's surprisingly good? Do you think it's in your top 10 games of the year, 2013? Because I know it's probably going to be in my top 10 list. It will probably be in the last couple of spots, along with the game Tesla, which I've been playing a lot of recently too. In fact, I actually got all the scrolls on that game now, so 100% of achievements done. Other games that have come out in the year, which I'd say are probably in my top games of the year, would have to be Saints Row 4, which is a superb game. X and Y, of course, and what other games have been out this year? In fact, I might even do. I'm very tempted to just do a video on that, just what my top 10 games of the year have been in general. Slender the Arrival. Where to start with Slender the Arrival? I don't quite know what to say about that game. The gameplay was extremely fun, but it lacked a lot of depth in the story. I mean, it's very hard to write a Slender story well, and you know, to pull it off in the way that most art studios probably wouldn't. But I'm excited to see because apparently they're preparing an update or some sort of DLC for the game. So I'll be really interested to see what that is. But again, thank you very much for watching this video. If you want me to do any more, you know, of these review-ish type videos on games that I've been buying on Steam, because I've been buying a few on the Steam sale. I bought Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut in the sale as well. Perhaps I could do a video on that. I don't know. What do you guys want me to do? Let me know down below. I guess I'll talk to you guys later. This game is absolutely superb. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Really fun game. The only thing that could be improved is the length. But that would probably be... I'd probably be okay with the length if they make a sequel, because, you know, obviously they're setting it up for that. So I'd be okay if the game's a little bit short, but, you know, the reason it's short is because, you know, they want to do lots of these games, and they want to make, you know, in a short amount of time. Perhaps that's why they made the game a bit shorter. I don't know, but that's Jammy Jack signing off. Peace out. Boop.